everyone. So today's video is a Ramadan bulk food prep. It'll just be me and my husband fasting in our house, so we wanted to make some yummy freezer friendly food just to cut our cooking time in half during Ramadan and spend less time in the kitchen. So I'll be sharing full recipes of the food that we made in this video. If you enjoy this and want to see more like it in the future, I would love it if you subscribe and give the video a like. So the first thing that I'll be doing is marinating a few meats to freeze. And this is a really good tip and hack. If you go to the butcher's, buy your meat, come home straight away and just marinate it, put it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it, and this will just save you time when it comes to cooking. You just get it out, let it defrost, and chuck it in the oven if you want to, or pan fry it, whatever you want. So I've washed my chicken, cut some slices into it, just so that any spices that I use to marinate it can just really get in there and flavor the chicken really well. I've also just washed and chopped up some coriander that I'll be using for two different meat marinations, but you'll see that in a second. So I'm just going to put all the chicken on a clean tray, and then I'm going to add some fresh garlic as well as some coriander. Now we're going to move on to the actual marination for the chicken. I'm going to be using some soy sauce. I'm going to use a lot of it because I love soy sauce. It does have salt in there, so I'm going to be using less salt. And then I'm going to sprinkle some black pepper, some cumin powder. I don't actually measure anything, so just add however much you want. Some curry powder. And then I add a little bit of coriander powder as well. I love coriander powder, anything to do with coriander. And lastly, I'm going to be using this Japanese 7 spice. You don't have to add this if you don't have it, but I just like the flavor of it. And then I add in some ginger paste that comes in a jar that you can see at the back. And I also added 1 whole lemon juice as well as olive oil. So once that's done, I like to put a glove on because I don't like for the spices to get under my nails or stain my skin, because even though you wash it with soap afterwards, it really does still smell, and you know, you can see the stain in the hands. I'll then just make sure that these spices coat the chicken really well, including the slices that I've made, and then I'll just get a Ziploc bag that fits the chicken. This is 1 baby chicken, no skin, cut into 8 pieces. So I'm going to just put it in that, close it, and that's done. This is the second chicken that I've marinated. I've marinated it slightly different. This has a yogurt in it, but it's pretty much similar. So now I'm going to move on to marinating my lamb chops. So the 2 bags of chicken are marinated out of the way, and in my lamb chops I'm just going to add some coriander. I can't seem to actually do anything without coriander. And I have some raita left over, which is just yogurt with mint, cucumber, and I just added that. Is the last of my yogurt. I added some black pepper, and I added a little bit of sea salt, but I also added some Maggi. If you don't know what Maggi is basically like chicken stock, and it's quite salty, so you don't want to put too much. And for the spices, I'm adding in coriander powder, cumin, mixed herbs, a healthy, generous olive oil. You want to add quite a bit of olive oil because that's what's going to be cooking it later on. I don't add any oil after. And then I use the zest of a lemon and just grate it on top. If I ever use lemons, I always try my best to zest the skin because it's full of flavor. And then I'll just roll it, and that will just help the juices come out a lot easier. I then add garlic paste and ginger paste. I think on this day I was quite lazy. I couldn't be bothered to make the fresh one, and this is really handy. And I also chopped up some spring onion that I had left in the fridge to just add to get rid of. So now I'm just going to marinate and mix the spices, make sure that every single piece of lamb chop is well spiced and well marinated before I add it into my Ziploc bag. I absolutely love this technique, guys. Honestly, as soon as you come back from the butcher's, marinate your meats, freeze them, and it'll honestly save you so much time when it comes to defrosting. You don't have to think about marinating anything, you just cook it straight away. So I'm going to just put it in a bigger Ziploc bag. It depends on how much meat you have, so just work it out. And if you have any marination left at the end, just scoop it all out, put it in, close your Ziploc, make sure that there's no air in it, and then just flatten it and put it in your freezer. And in the meantime, in between doing all of this, because I wash my meat, I do like to just spray some disinfectant spray leave it for around 5 minutes and wash it off. So you want to do this just to make sure you're getting rid of all the germs, especially with the virus that's happening. So these are my 2 bags of chicken that's marinated, and I'm going to just stick that in the freezer like so. I also marinated some chicken breast that I wanted to use for butter chicken, so that's just going to go in the freezer. And now we're going to move on to making our spring rolls. My husband is the king of spring rolls and samosas. I don't know how to do any of this. So he's just began with frying some onion in a little bit of oil. He's adding some black pepper and he's using some chicken breast mince. This is how it looks, and this is actually quite tasty. I've never had it before until now, and it's really, really good. Once that is in the pan, he'll just break it up so that it becomes really, really tiny mince pieces. He will add in some soy sauce, quite a bit of soy sauce. Cook it in the soy sauce, break it up some more. And then he'll be adding his spices. He's added in coriander powder, turmeric, red chili powder, and a tiny bit of paprika. And then he's just going to cook the spices off and add the vegetables. So he's added in spring onions, sweet corn, and grated carrots, as well as some red chilies. He's just taken the seeds out of the chilies so that it's not very, very spicy in case the kids want to try it. And now he's topped it off with some coriander, and that is it. It's done. So what he's done is he's put tissue paper down, put the mixture in just to draw out all the oil or any excess oil. He's very healthy, my husband. Doesn't like oily things. Knowing him, he'll probably refuse to cook the spring rolls in oil. He'll probably want to put it in the oven. So this is how much oil that has come out from that, even though he didn't use a lot of oil to begin with. So he's just made a little mixture here with water and plain flour, and this will act as glue for the sheets. And he's using phyllo sheets, by the way, which we haven't made ourselves. So he's going to do the spring rolls and the samosas, because I'm really not a pro at this whatsoever, but as you can see, he is. So I let him take charge, or I always just tell him I don't know how to do it so that he can do it. You know, it's a really good trick, ladies. Use it. There's the second spring roll done, and I'm just going to leave him to do the rest. Once that's done, I will just put it in the fridge singularly so that they're not touching each other, because I've made the mistake once of putting all the spring rolls on top of each other and they just stuck. And when you pull it apart, everything just rips. So you need to separate it in the freezer. Once it's frozen, you can put it in a bag all together with them touching. So these are all the spring rolls that we've made. Like I said, it's just us two. We don't need a lot. And my husband was very clever. He gave Malik the task of splitting the peas that he needed to use for his next samosa filling. The next one is going to be a meaty one. So he's just peeling his potatoes for this. He's probably going to use 2 potatoes, and these are medium potatoes. They're not even large, so you don't need a lot. And then he's going to cut them into small cubes. He's very, very precise, as you can see. He then chops up 2 onions. He chops them up quite finely, and in a pan he's got a little bit of oil, adds in the onions, add in some garlic and ginger paste, mixes it around until the onions are translucent in color, and then adds in the potatoes for them to just cook together, mixes it all up, and adds some salt and pepper. So once the pepper is in, he'll just mix it up a little bit more and let the potatoes par cook. He doesn't want to cook the potatoes all the way through, because next he's adding in the mince. So if you cook the potatoes all the way through, when it comes to breaking up the mince with the spatula, you're going to just mush up the potatoes and it's going to become mashed potato. So cook it only halfway through. Now he's adding in his spices, some paprika, a little bit of cumin powder, and some salt. Oh, and here goes the soy sauce, because as you can see, he's quite fond of the soy sauce. So once all of that is in, he's just going to give it a quick mix. Make sure that the mincemeat, the potatoes, the spices are coating everything thoroughly. And he must have added in his peas. This is him filming, which I'm very proud of him, bless him. I didn't even know he was doing this whatsoever because it was supposed to be on me to do the filming. So he's added in the chilies without the seeds once again. You can tell we're not big chili eaters. And then to finish it off, just some chopped fresh coriander. And here I'm going to be making the samosa dough, if you want to call it. And this is so easy to do. You just need 1 cup of flour, plain flour. You need some salt, some pepper. I'll put the measurements in the description bar below if you want to make it. And then you add in 2 tablespoons of oil or ghee. I didn't have ghee at this moment in time, but it's supposed to do the exact same thing. So mixing it all up until it becomes a breadcrumb consistency, much like so. So when you just touch it, it falls apart and crumbles. Now I'm adding in my water, tiny amount at a time as I mix it so that I don't make it soggy and it's not too much water. So you want to add in your water a tiny bit at a time. And I like to use my gloves so that, again, my hands don't get sticky. And this is the perfect consistency for the dough. And I'm just going to roll it out and let it rest. So much later, once the kids are in bed, my husband cut up the dough. He turned them into tiny little balls and he just rolled them. He's done this. This is how it looks. He's just shaped it into a little cone. Added in the meat mixture and just folded it. So all the samosas look different, by the way, because you know how men cook. But I'm very proud of him. So by the way, the dough that I made didn't make enough, so he had to make another batch. So he did that. He's letting it rest and then he's going to carry on. And now I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the most delicious filling that you'll ever make. And I'm telling you, you need to make it. So you just need some butter, red onions. It doesn't need to be red. You can use whatever onions you have at hand. And then add in your chicken breast. I've chopped mine up quite small. I've added in fresh garlic. And I'm going to mix it all up. And you want to just keep mixing it around so that the garlic doesn't burn. So once your chicken has turned white in color and there's a little bit of liquid in there, cover it up, let it cook, let the liquid evaporate, and then add in your spices. So I've added in paprika, coriander powder and turmeric. That is it. And mix that all up together just so that all the chicken can be coated in the spices evenly. I then add my favorite spice ever, which is Maggi instead of salt. It just gives it so much flavor, a lot nicer flavor than salt. And I added in some finely chopped spring onions and coriander, and that is it. No, I'm lying. I added in double cream. That is not it. Trust me. You're going to need all of these ingredients to make this taste the way it tastes. You cannot be missing any ingredients out, okay? And then I'm adding in some red Leicester cheese. And now you're going to see how gooey and cheesy that the cheese makes this filling. So you need to add all of the ingredients as stated. And that is the filling done. So I'm going to let that rest. Well, I let it rest for a while, and now I'm going to be rolling out the puff pastry. So this is just your basic Tesco puff pastry. You can make your own. I cannot be bothered. Don't have the luxury of the time. So I'm just going to be rolling it out, and then I'm going to be using a circle bowl just to cut out some circle shapes. Once I have done that, I'm going to remove the excess dough, and I'm going to be reusing that later to do the exact same thing. And I'm going to take each of these circle puff pastries and just roll them out further to enlarge them a little bit so you can see the size difference here. And then I'm going to take my cooled filling. You don't want to do this with hot filling. I'm going to add in a jalapeno and just close that. I'm going to be using a fork to just press down gently, and if anything cuts up or there's some dough missing, just add it on, just basically stick it on. And I'm just going to repeat the process with all of them. I made so many, So this does make a lot, and I even had some filling left over. I then froze them all individually so that they don't stick. Some of them did, unfortunately, so it's really important that you don't put them on top of each other. And that is it, guys. That's everything that we have decided to make to prepare for Ramadan. Hopefully this saves us some time in the kitchen. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.